Now we are going to learn about files and exceptions. So you know how like the lab and the scripts that we have done so far, any number like we accept the user input, for example, enter grade between 0 and 100, something like that. And I have if like statement on or the else statement that will catch if the user does anything outside the range. So, for example, if the user enter negative number, however, what if the user now enter a word instead of grade? It can happen. So it would break, but a good programmer does not leave that up to chance. Okay, so in general, you don't want just to leave your code randomly break. Okay, so you can use exceptions and try to catch these types of situation where like an if statement wouldn't be able to do that because it's like let's say catching a different case. So basically exceptions are why mainly we probably can skip the part for continue and we see so far, and we can probably further explain to the user what is like the problem or like what wouldn't work and treating these particular cases. Okay, it's a way to catch errors, let me say. Okay, so this is different just than your program not doing what you want. Okay, so if something where it will cause your program to crash, so when an error occurs, an exception object is created, and so we can sort of handle it and tell Python, hey, so you caught this error, what you do now, okay? So, and when we use this, it is called try except, okay? So it's a try except block, and this is kind of similar to if else block, okay? So try means try to do this code, and if, for example, the error happens, then try to execute this code instead, okay? The reason that this is nice, it is that you can create sort of custom error message, and you can try kind of more specific, and like you can help the user to understand what is or what are they doing, okay? So for example, this is just an example of exception. It could be zero division error in this case. So what happened is that I have, if for example, I consider the case, if the user is going to divide by zero, so it shows that this is zero division error, okay? So mainly this is how it works. So now the else block, it can be added after the try catch block, and the else block executes if the try catch runs successfully without generating the error in the except block. So why this is very important? So if you don't use the else block, the code after try catch will execute regardless of whatever an error was generated or not, and the else block is not accessed if that like no error were generated. So this is again another example of else block. So we have this here. So we have try print number devices, for example, it's zero exception, zero division error, so don't divide by zero. Else we have the numbers were successfully divided, which means that this does not exist, this like error. Now we are trying to see this like in context of files. So this is mainly the reason that this ends up being useful. The exceptions is when we use them with files. So for files, if like I am trying to read from a file or write to a file, that can sometimes happen if you try to reference a file that doesn't exist. So it can happen, and in that case will cause kind of problems, or it can cause your program to crash even. So, but if we use the try catch, like try except block, you say let's try to find this file. If it does not exist, then I'm going to print a nice message that the user can understand without actually crashing your code. So first I am going to go over how to read and write from a file. Then what will happen? It's like it will be kind of combining these so the idea behind reading from and writing to files is really important because a lot of time you don't necessarily need everything in your script. So 100% of the time mainly. So you may want to reference data like when your script is not actually running. Okay, this is how it works. If I want to read from a file, what can happen? I have my first step. So step one is I need to create a file input. So it's entirely up to you to choose any text editor to write your files. If you are in Windows, you can use Notepad to create the files. You can use text edit if you are on Mac to create a new document and just save it as a TXT. Okay, so let's say I want to create a file called books txt. Now, if I am going to save this file, maybe, so I can save it in whatever location, and then I need to specify it's very important to remember your location because when I am reading the file, I need to specify that. Okay, it's one of the very important information. So your text file need to be in the exact same folder as your Python script. This is a very important, otherwise it will say I'm not finding it. And you can fill it with whenever you want. So you can write anything. I'm just giving you an example here. So now step two is that I probably need to create Python script to read from it. So step one is creating the text file, like whatever data I am going to read. Step two now is creating the Python script to interpret that data. So what I need to do is using the phrase. So I am going to open my file. Okay, how it works I'm talking about. So you need to use this with open and then you specify your file name with the extension .txt as a file object. So it's going to be treated or open it as a file object. So in this case, I'm going, if in case you're changing the name at some point, so it won't read. So you keep sure that the name is whatever really the name of your file. So if the file is not having the same place also as my Python script, as I mentioned, then I need to provide the path, okay? So whether you provide the path or it will not work if it's somewhere else. If you don't provide the path, means it must be within the same folder. But in this case, it's going to work just like file name because my text file is the name placed that as, for example, I'm having my Python script, okay? So now this is mainly how it works. And what we have need to remember a few things to pay attention to the type of the input. So it's make sure that the input is in the same folder, and if not, you make sure that you are having the path. You add the path, and so the file name is between the parentheses, which is this one, okay, and it comes after open. And so you make sure that you use single or double quotes. Okay, so this starts with open. So this with is a keyword that closes the file when the content are successfully read. So it's important to close files when you are done to avoid the file being lost or corrupted. And we specify the open, so but not close because the with keywords already taken care of the close operation. Okay, the third step is now to read from the file. So I'm going to have content is equal the file object dot read. So I just only use dot read in this case. Okay, so important note is when Python reaches to the end of the file, it sometimes add some extra blank line to do string justice. I would just to let you know. Okay, the fourth step is that you are going to use the content of the file in your script. So print, for example, this content. You can just use a simple print. So in this case, should be able to see the content on your screen exactly like you have them in your input file. Okay. Just for clarifications here, probably in this case, so this code, what will happen? It will read the entire py.txt file. So what if I want to read the file line by line? So for example, I execute final grades where each line corresponds to one grade. So the text file must be in the same directory as Python script. And in this case, probably you can think, what if I have a subfolder or I have a different structure and so on. So for all these particular cases, we can simply try to go through that. Probably in the future for this class, we will not focus on these details, okay? So the file paths also are very important to specify a subfolder. You can use this for now. With open here, you just specify the file path, okay? And this is just an example that refers when a relative path here, it refers to the file path relative to where the Python script is. And so for Windows, for example, we use the two backslash, but we use forward slash for learning support. Okay, so OSX. So remember that one backslash indicates a special character like slash. Okay, so this is an example of a path here, and we're not going to dive more into the details, but just going through this, even it's not part of your exam, I just want you to learn that in Python, we can read from files, we can analyze the text in that file, we can make a list of lines from that file, and we can even write in an empty file. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Just try to introduce this for you very quickly, but in case you have any questions, I would be really glad to assist. Okay, thank you so much.